Good morning, students. This is lecture number 2 for chapter number 7, Evans Tries NO Level, written by Colin Dexter for class 12th, subject English, book Vistas. Children, in this lecture number 2, we will recapitulate what I taught you in lecture number 1 of this chapter, and then we will proceed further from page number 74 to 77. Right? So let's begin the lecture with the recapitulation of lecture number 1 of chapter number 7, Evans Tries NO Level. So here children, I tell you what I taught you in lecture number 1 in nutshell. The story Evans Tries NO Level starts with a telephonic conversation between the governor and the examination board secretary. Right? And the prison authorities want to conduct an O-level examination in German language for a prisoner named Evans. The secretary asks about the venue of the examination and also about the invigilator for it. The governor replies that the exam can be conducted in the cell of Evans and a churchman will be appointed from St. Mary Mag's as the invigilator for the examination. Then they both end their conversation by deciding on how and when the exam will be conducted. A senior prison officer, Jackson, visits Evans' cell to conduct an inspection so that if any weapon may be hidden there. They are going through this checking because Evans had successfully escaped from the prison earlier also. The episode gave him the name of Evans the Break. The governor was not ready to take any risk with this as it could bring a bad name to him. Jackson and Stephens checked the cell thoroughly. They had taken away his nail scissors earlier, and now Jackson ordered Stephens to take away his razor blade as soon as he shaved himself. Jackson ordered Evans to take off his hat but left it because Evan requested him not to do so, as that bobble hat was Lucky Charm of Evans. So he said it was very important day of his life that he was going to take O-level German examination for which he attended classes till from the last September till date. So now in the month of March, he was going to take this examination on the day, and the day was very important. Therefore, he requested the officer not to take his bobble hat away. Children, this was the complete explanation of lecture number 1. Now we will proceed further with lecture number 2. So children, lecture number 2 begins with page number 74, para number 1. At 8:45 a.m., the same morning, the Reverend Stuart McClary, Reverend means respected, respected Stuart McClary left his bachelor flat in Broad Street and stepped out briskly towards Carfax. Briskly means fastly. The weatherman reported temperatures considerably below the normal for early June, and a long black overcoat and a shallow crowned clerica hat provided welcome protection from the steady drizzle which had set in half an hour earlier and which now spattered, spattered means sprinkled, the thick lenses of his spectacles. In his right hand he was carrying a small brown suitcase which contained all that he would need for his morning duties, including a sealed question paper envelope, a yellow invigilation form, a specific authentication card. Authentication means proof. Okay, from the examinations board, a paper knife, a Bible. He was to speak to the women's guild. Guild means association. That afternoon on the book of Ruth, and a current copy of the Church Times. So, what we have studied that at 8:40 a.m. the parson from St. Mary Mag's, right, whose name was Stuart McClary. That Stuart McClary, who was a parson at St. Mary Mag, right, left his bachelor flat made for single persons in Broad Street, and he started walking fast towards Carfax. The weather reports claimed that the temperature would be below normal in early June. So McClary was wearing a black overcoat and a clerical hat which is actually used by church clergyman, right? जो पादरी पहनते हैं, right? To protect himself from rainfall that started within half an hour. It had also splashed water on his spectacles. He was carrying a small brown colored suitcase in his right hand. It had all the things required for that morning duties because he was going to conduct examination of Evans in the cell. So he was carrying a suitcase with all the necessary things which he would need during the conduct of the examination. And he was carrying a sealed question paper envelope also, a yellow supervisor form also, a special permission card that would verify him as a supervisor, and a blunt knife to cut the seal of the paper, a Bible also, as he had to speak for a women's association on the book of Ruth, and the latest copy of Church Times. Church Times is the name of the newspaper, right? All these things he was carrying along, and he was going to Oxford prison for the conduct of examination for the prisoner who would appear in O-level German examination today. Now we shall proceed further. The 2-hour examination was scheduled to start at 9:15 am. Children, here you need to underline that it was 2 hours examination of O-level German exam, and that was scheduled to start at 9:15 am. Evans was lathering. Lathering means foaming his face vigorously. Vigorously means swiftly. When Stephens brought in 2 small square tables and then set them opposite each other in the narrow space between the bunk on the one side and on the other a distempered means painted stone wall. Next, Stephen brought in 2 hard chairs, the slightly less battered means broken, almost broken, of which he placed in front of the table which stood nearer the cell door. Jackson put in brief final appearance, behave yourself lady. Lady means boy, right? And Evans turned and nodded. Okay, so what we have studied, the 2-hour examination was planned to begin at 9:15 am that day, and Evans was foaming his face strongly and swiftly when Stephen brought in 2 small square tables. He put them opposite each other in the small space between the bed and the painted wall. He then brought in 2 chairs. The less worn out chairs was placed in front of the table which was near the cell door. Jackson made a small final appearance and asked Evans to behave properly. Evans turned and showed his acceptance. Let's continue further. And these, Jackson pointed to the pin-ups. Pin-ups means posters that were present in the lockup of Evans, right? These are actually the photographs of sexually attractive persons hanging onto the wall. They are called pin-ups, right? The photographs that sexually attract someone, that is called pin-ups. And in simple, they are called posters. And these, Jackson pointed to the pin-ups of. Evans turned and nodded again. I was going to take them down anyway. A minister, isn't he? The chap coming to sit in, I mean. And how did you know that? Asked Jackson quietly. Well, I had to sign some forms, didn't I? And I couldn't help. Evans drew the razor carefully down his left cheek and left a neat swath. Swath means line in the white leather. Can I ask you something, Mr. Jackson? Why did they have to bug me? Bug me means spy me. In my cell, he nodded his head vaguely. Vaguely means not clearly, to a point above the door. So, what we studied in these lines? Jackson ordered Evans to remove the posters which Evans had pinned up onto the cell wall. Evans agreed to that and he said, in fact, he was going to remove them as he knew it was some churchman who was coming to conduct his examination. Jackson queried as to how he knew that there would be a churchman coming to conduct the examination. Evans said that he had noticed it when he had signed the examination forms. Evans continued with his shaving and sought Jackson's permission to ask him something. He then asked why the officers had put a microphone in his cell. It's written a bug. Bug means spy. For spy, they had put a small microphone in the cell of Evans. Right? He said why this microphone had been put into my cell. And he turned his head towards the space above the door. Children, now we are on page number 75. He said, not a very neat job, conceded Jackson. Conceded means confessed, admitted. They are not. They don't honestly think I am going to try to. They are taking no chances, Evans. Nobody in his senses would take any chance with you. Who is going to listen in? I'll tell you who is going to listen in, Larry. It's the governor himself. See, he don't trust you a bloody inch, and nor do I. I'll be watching you like a hawk, Evans. So keep your nose clean, clear. He walked towards the door. Evans nodded. He had already thought of that, and number 2 handkerchief was lying ready on the bunk, and a neatly folded square of off-white linen. Just one more thing, Einstein. Yeah, what's that? Good luck, old son. So, what we studied here, Jackson admitted that the microphone was not put perfectly, as Evans easily spotted it. Right? It was kept secretly in his cell, but he was so sharp, he was so clever that he got to know that a microphone was put in his cell. So Jackson admitted to it that it was not perfectly put as he could easily spot that. Right? So Evans questioned him why they think that he would run. Jackson replied that only one, no anyone with a sense would not trust him. Evans then questions him as to who was going to listen to him because this microphone was put here to listen what we are talking or speaking here in this cell. So who is going to listen what we are speaking here? Jackson replied that the governor himself would listen as he didn't trust him. Jackson told him that even he did not trust him. So he would watch him like a hawk. Hawk is a bird that keeps its eye on its prey all the time. He finally asks him to keep his nose clean and Evans agreed to it. He knew this already and so had kept a neat hanky on the bed. Jackson wished him good luck before leaving. After this, what's written on page number 75? He said, in the little lot just inside the prison's main gates, the Reverend S. McClary signed his name neatly in the visitor's book and then walked side by side with the silent prison officer across the exercise yard to D Wing, where he was greeted by Jackson. The wing's heavy outer door was unlocked and locked behind them. The heavy inner door unlocked and locked the heavy inner door the same. The McClary was handed into Stephen's keeping. Get the razor, murmured Jackson. Stephens nodded. Well, keep your eyes skinned, clear? Stephens nodded again, and McClary, his feet clenching, his feet clenching up the iron stairs, followed his new guide and finally stood before a cell door, where Stephens opened the peephole and looked through. That's him, sir. Right? So now what we have studied, the priest who was appointed from St. Mary Mag's had reached the prison and he had signed his name in the visitor's book at the gate of the prison. He was then followed by the prison officer through the exercise yard to D Wing because Evans' cell was in D Wing. There he was greeted by Jackson. The heavy outer door of the D Wing was opened and then shut behind them. The same happened when they entered through the inner door also. McClary joined Stephens there. Jackson ordered Stephens to remove the razor from the cell. Stephen agreed. He also told him to keep a close watch. McClary made a vibrating sound while climbing up the stairs, following his new guide. When they reached the entrance of the cell, Stephens opened the peephole and informed McClary that he was the person who had to take the examination. So let's proceed further. We are in the last paragraph on page number 75. Evans, facing the door, sat quietly at the farther of the two tables. His whole attention reverted to a textbook of elementary German grammar. Stephens took the key from its ring, and the cell lock sprang back with a thudded metallic twang. Thudded means strike something with a heavy sound, and twang means a strong ringing sound. And it was 9:10 a.m. when the governor switched on the receiver. Why did he turn on this receiver? Because the microphone was secretly fit, though it was spotted by Evans, but it was fit in his cell. So the exam was to start at 9:15. It was 9:10 a.m. when the governor switched on the receiver. He had instructed Jackson to tell Evans of the temporary little precaution. That was only fair, as if Evans wouldn't spot it. But wasn't it all a bit theoretical? Schoolish boy, almost. How on earth was Evans going to try anything on today? If he was so anxious to make another break, why in heaven's name hadn't he tried it from the recreational block? Much easier. But he had not. And there he was now, sitting in a locked cell, all the prison officers on the alert, two more locked doors between his cell and the yard, and a yard with a wall as high as a haystack. Yes, Evans was as safe as houses. Haystack means dried grass. So what is written here? Evans was sitting quietly, facing the door slightly away from the two tables. He was concentrating on the elementary German grammar, and Stephens took one of the keys from the ring and opened the lock. The lock of the cell made a ringing sound. After it sprung up at 10 a.m., the governor switched on the receiver of the microphone also, and he ordered Jackson to tell Evans to be careful, as they had installed a microphone in his cell. He thought that it would be good to forewarn him. He said it in a way as though Evans would never be able to spot it. A thought came to the governor's mind that all this seemed like a theatrical drama, and all their preparations were like those done by schoolboys. He thought that how could Evans think of escaping that day? He could have tried it when he was at the recreational block, because it was very easy for him to escape from there. But today he was locked in his cell, and all the officers were closely watching him, and there were two doors between his cell and the yard, and there were walls as high as piles of dry grass. Yes, Evans was totally safe now, and the governor did not want to take any risk. Therefore, he had taken all the precautionary measures before the examination began, and the outsider named McClary, the invigilator from St. Mary Mag's, had entered the cell. Now the exam would begin. Children, now we are reading second paragraph on page number 76. Anyway, it wouldn't be any trouble to all to have the receiver turned on for the next couple of hours or so. It wasn't as if there was going to be anything to listen to, was it? Amongst other things, an invigilator's duty was to ensure that the strictest silence was observed. But still, that little nagging doubt. Might Evans try to take advantage of McClary? Get him to smuggle. Smuggle means to take something illegally. In a chisel. Chisel is a weapon, right? Or a weapon. Or two. Or a rope ladder. Or the governor sat up sharply. Sharply means attentively. It was all very well getting rid of any potential means possible weapon that Evans could have used. But what about McClary? What if quite unwittingly means foolishly, the innocent McClary had brought in something himself, a jackknife perhaps. Jackknife is a knife with folding blades, right? And what if Evans held him hostage? Hostage means kept as a prisoner with such a weapon. All these were the thoughts that were revolving in the mind of the governor, because governor did not want to take any risk this time, as it was a question of his prestige in the prison. So the governor thought that there will be no problem if he keeps the receiver switched on. Although he knew that there was nothing to listen because it is the duty of the supervisor to maintain silence. But he was still in doubt. He was worried about Evans taking undue advantage of McClary. He could have smuggled him to take long-bladed hand tool or a rope ladder. The governor at once got alert. He thought that they had taken away all the possible weapons from Evans' cell, but there were chances that McClary could have brought some weapon unknowingly with himself, such as a jackknife, which is a large knife with a folding blade. Even Evans could hold him captive for forcing the prison officers to release him. So there was a doubt with the governor that Evans was very sharp-minded person and could take advantage of McClary if he had brought anything unknowingly with him that could be used as a weapon by Evans. Let's read from book, page number 76 only. The governor reached for the phone. It was 9:12 a.m. The examinee and the invigilator. Who is the examinee here? Evans. The examinee and the invigilator had already been introduced by Stephens when Jackson came back and shouted to McClary through the cell door. Can you come out a minute, sir? You too, Stephens. Jackson quickly explained the governor's worries, and McClary patiently held out his arms at shoulder level waist, whilst Jackson lightly frisked his clothes. Frisked means checked, jogged. Something hard here, sir? Then he said, my reading glasses means mine reading glasses, replied McClary, looking down at the spectacles case. Jackson quickly reassured him and bending down on the landing thumb, flicked the catches on the suitcase. He picked up each envelope in turn, carefully passed his palms along their surfaces, and seemed satisfied. He riffled. Riffled means quickly turned over the pages, cursorily. Cursorily means casually, through a few pages of Holy Writ. The vaguely shook the church times, all right so far, but one of the objects in McClary's suitcase was puzzling him sorely. Sorely means badly. So the governor called up someone at 9:12, and Stephen had already introduced the supervisor and Evans, who had to appear for the examination. Just at that moment, Jackson, the senior officer, came and asked McClary to come outside for a minute. He explained about the governor's reason for being worried for him. Then McClary cooperated him in the checking process by holding out his arms so that he could be checked properly. Jackson started checking him very fast. He then found something hard, which McClary said that was his reading glasses. So to be more sure, he even checked his suitcase. He checked each envelope and carefully searched everything with his palms. He also went roughly through the Holy Writ and the Church Times, the newspaper he brought with him, and everything was fine. But there was one thing in the suitcase that was strongly confusing the officer. Now let's read what was that confusing thing in McClary's suitcase. Now we are on page number 77. It's, do you mind telling me why you have brought this, sir? He held up a smallish semi-inflated rubber ring. Semi-inflated means half swollen. Rubber ring, such as a young child with a waist of about 12 inches might have struggled into. You thinking of going for a swim, sir? McClary, hitherto. Hitherto means before this. Amiable demeanor. Amiable means very friendly. Demeanor means behavior. Was slightly ruffled. Ruffled means he got disturbed. By this tasteless little pleasantry, pleasantry is the way he behaved with him, because there he found something doubtful in his suitcase and he started making fun of that, right? So it was something tasteless, little pleasantry, and he answered Jackson somewhat sorely. If you must know, I suffer from hemorrhoids. Hemorrhoids means piles. Piles is a swollen vein or a group of veins, right? He said, I suffer from hemorrhoids when I am sitting down for any length or time. Very sorry, sir. I didn't mean to that. The embarrassment means uneasiness, was still reddening Jackson's cheeks when he found the paper knife at the bottom of the case. Reddening means making red. I think I would better keep this though, if you don't mind. That's it, sir. So now what we studied, what was that doubtful he found in his suitcase? Jackson asked McClary as to why he had brought a half-filled rubber ring. Right? So the suspicious thing that Jackson found in the suitcase was semi-inflated, or you can say half-filled rubber ring. A rubber ring which was not even fit for a small child with 12-inch waist. He asked him whether he was going for a swim, that he brought a rubber ring with him. McClary, who till now seemed very friendly, suddenly changed because of the tasteless joke he had made. So he told him that he was suffering from hemorrhoids, and when he has to sit for a long time, he left his sentence incomplete, and Jackson felt very awkward and sorry for behaving like that. He then later discovered the paper knife in the suitcase and said that he hoped McClary did not mind if he kept it with him. So, in such a way, there was frisking done of McClary and the suitcase he was carrying, and in fact, all the sharp objects from his suitcase were also taken out of the cell of Evans. So children, now we are reading from the mid on page number 77. It was 9:18 a.m. before the governor heard their voices again, and it was clear that the examination was going to be more than a little late in getting underway. McClary, you have got a watch? Evans, yes sir. McClary, I'll be telling you when to start and again when you have 5 minutes left, alright? Silence. McClary, there is plenty more. Oh, this writing paper, should you need it? Silence. Now write the name on the paper. 021 1 in the top left hand corner. McClary, in the top right hand corner, write your index number 313, and in the box just below that, write your center number 271. Alright? So children, here you need to underline all these numbers that he is asking to mention. So what we have read here, it was 9:18, and you remember the exam was scheduled at 9:15, right? Because of frisking of McClary, the exam got little late. Now it was 9:18 a.m. when governor heard their voices again. It was understood that the exam will start a little late. McClary queried Evans about having a watch. He answered yes. He said that he will tell him when to start, and he will again tell him when only 5 minutes will be left. Evans said nothing. McClary gave him instruction about where to write the index number, center number, and he quietly followed it, everything. Right? So, children, this is the end of page number 77. As I announced in the beginning of this lecture that today we shall cover this lecture number 2 from page number 74 to 77. Okay? And rest of the pages I'll be taking in next lectures of the same chapter. Now we shall proceed towards homework. Children, I hope that you people are taking interest in learning this lesson, and you can get your doubts cleared in your live session also on WebEx Cisco. And today's homework for this lecture is read the complete chapter Evans Tries an O Level from page number 74 to 77 thoroughly. Children, reading would help you to understand this chapter in better manner, and you would be getting it, clearly stored in your memory. So it's better to keep reading the chapter along with the lectures. Thank you. Have a nice day.